Nothing seems to come easy for the Prime Minister anymore. It certainly wasn't easy to deliver a speech over the noise of the protesters who came equipped to make all the noise they wanted. The Prime Minister didn't try to speak for very long. Instead, he walked into the crowd, but there too he had to contend with the protesters. Chrétien should be unemployed, the protesters screamed. As the Prime Minister continued toward his car, he came face to face with one of the demonstrators. Suddenly, Chrétien took the man by the back of the neck. His other hand was over the protester's mouth. He pushed him aside. Seconds later, another protester approached the Prime Minister. Chrétien knocked over the bullhorn that was in his hands. This was all over in a matter of seconds. The Prime Minister grabbing a protester by the back of the neck and pushing him aside. The RCMP pushed the protester on the ground. But how did the protester get so close to the Prime Minister? The RCMP says there was no breach in security.
The Prime Minister was adequately protected today, and that's it.
Bill Clement is the protester who was pushed aside.
We sort of stayed here, and then I said, well, I'll keep my ground right here. And then he came and put me on the ground.
Although the protesters were protesting unemployment insurance changes, Deputy Prime Minister Sheila Cott says their protest was also about national unity.
You don't use that point to destroy the celebration of the Canadian flag.
You mentioned separatists.
Well, I mentioned separatists because they then went on to say that it wasn't their flag.
When it was over, Jean Chrétien provided his account.
I don't know. What happened? I don't know. See, if you don't know, the cameras were there. Some people came in my way. It might be been I had to go, so if you're in my way, I'm walking. So I don't know what happened. If happened something to somebody, should not have been there.
Afterward, the Prime Minister's office said Chrétien was just defending himself.
Well, the old street fighter is back in town.
Lawrence Martin recently wrote a book about Jean Chrétien. In it, he chronicles fistfights the Prime Minister fought right up to adulthood.
I think this is Jean Chrétien forgetting his prime ministerial pose and saying, you know, I'm not going to take this anymore. I've had enough. First Bouchard, then the knife wielder, now this guy. Well, that's it. And boom, he lets him have it.
Late in the day, the Prime Minister had one last appearance, but he was in no mood to say another thing about the altercation. After all, Chrétien had declared February the 15th Flag Day. And there is no question this year's first ever Flag Day was, as they say, overtaken by events. Jason Moskowitz, CBC News.